Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MechaWill. I am your host, MechaWill, and welcome to my show. So we have a very serious topic to talk about. Now, recently I did a upload of this video already called Why I Support VaatiVidya, and you can check that out in the link below, but it was very terrible quality. I didn't have a microphone with me. I didn't have any of my setup, basically, so I'm doing a re-upload so I can go back over what I talked about, but maybe in a more professional manner. Where you guys can actually, have a better time listening to what I'm saying. So the topic at hand, VaatiVidya and plagiarism. Now, let's lay down exactly what's going on. VaatiVidya is a prominent Souls YouTuber. He does lore videos for Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, any From Software-related content, basically. So there was a user on Reddit. This happened, I suppose, at this point a couple of days ago, named Aegon of Astora, who recently released a rather scathing retort towards VaatiVidya, accusing him of plagiarism in a couple of key senses, and as a result, the Reddit community and also the Souls community at large has been pretty fired up about what's going on here. I recently read an article on Kotaku today, and I'm sure other gaming news sites are getting involved. In fact, it's the first thing that pops up if you Google VaatiVidya in the search queue. But we're going to work on making this video a little bit briefer, so I'm going to get down to the topics real quick here. So the four major things that were pointed out in the video were this. There was a user named Deadin from Reddit, who a long time ago in VaatiVidya's Lore in a Minute, VaatiVidya has been shown to have taken images and artwork from Deadin without properly citing him, and this happened years ago with his Dark Souls channel. He subsequently, He subsequently reviewed and redeemed himself in the sense that he made sure to acknowledge Deadin's work and made sure to cite and make sure to put links to Deadin's work after he realized his mistake. VaatiVidya has already apologized for this. This happened years ago. This was before he was getting Patreon money, which apparently is another big hot topic of this issue. The idea that not only is he taking other people's work without citing it, but also that he's profiting off of it, that he's making money off of his Patreon, which sits at roughly about $6,000 a month at this point. Now, the purpose of this video is pretty controversial, and it's basically that I stand with VaatiVidya. I support VaatiVidya, and I believe that he has not plagiarized anything. Now, I say this is controversial because, the sweeping opinion, it's changing a little bit now that we've had some more room to discuss, but especially the night of and the days preceding. And, of course, there's still some people out there with that opinion that VaatiVidya is a plagiarist. And I want to go over the reasons right now, exactly why that is not the case. So the main things in the video that were stated were there was a Lucatiel Dark Souls 2 lore video where Aegon of Astora had uploaded it, and then VaatiVidya uploaded his, and there were some similarities in there, particularly two 10 to 20 second intervals within VaatiVidya's 14-minute film that let's center this a little bit. I apologize. That because of that, he seemed to think that Vaati had ripped off his Aegon of Astora. Seemed to think that Vaati had ripped off his video. Now, the two pieces in question were there's a sequence that is basically you've got Lucatiel and her brother Azlatiel, if you know any of Dark Souls 2 lore, and they're basically sparring it out. This is in the Pursuer's platform in the Forest of Fallen Giants, where he first pops up and he meets him, and they had the same kind of fencing sequence in the sense that, again, it was very brief. It was only like a 5 to 10 second interval, but they both used a parry, and they both used this joy emote at the end, and they were both in the same location. So that seemed to be a ticker for Aegon of Astora. And then, of course, we have the other piece, which was where Lucatiel meets Azlatiel, her brother, basically the climax and also resolution of Lucatiel's story with Azlatiel. And they used the dialogue relatively in the same order, I'd like to point out that there was a quote that VaatiVidya used from Lucatil that was not in the same order as Aegon of Astores, and therefore it's definitely not verbatim. But these two 10-second intervals within a 14-minute long video, that's the first part of what I'm going to get onto. And let's get on it right now. This is ridiculous. The idea that VaatiVidya not only, let's take a look at what VaatiVidya is and what he's done for the community and what kinds of things that he has. So he has hundreds of videos on Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne lore, all over the place. And none of these are in contention except this one Dark Souls 2 video. So let's be clear about what's being implied here. VaatiVidya, a creator of many videos that he does, practically on his own, does his own editing, writing, narration, all of that kind of stuff. For two brief 10-second intervals, tell me which is more is more likely to you. For two brief 10, 20-second intervals for two different pieces, specifically a sparring piece and a dialogue piece, VaatiVidya just suddenly was drained of all inspiration, all creativity, entirely bereft of it. And at this point, he thought to himself, well, I better plagiarize now. It's time. It's been my backhand card for a while now. It's time to plagiarize. So he doesn't only plagiarize somebody's noted works, but he goes to a channel like Aegon of Astores, again, not to disparage small YouTubers, because I myself am a small YouTuber, but goes to a channel that has under 500 subs at the time, like under 500 subscribers, and decides to pick one of his videos and cherry pick two 10-second sequences out of this unknown, relatively independent Souls thing, and doesn't bother to change the any real aspect of it at all, thereby making it if this indeed happened, making it very, very clear that it is plagiarism. Is it is it likely that he did that VaatiVidya, the creator of all of these hundreds of videos where he scripted these sequences, these same kinds of sequences, these same kinds of dialogues and stories and all this kinds of thing so many times by himself, he just suddenly can't do it and decides to turn to somebody that's relatively unknown and let's be honest here, entirely unknown to the Souls community, and decides to take two 10-second intervals, ripping off no more than that for different parts of the video. Those parts aren't in sequence together. They're broken apart. They're at different ends of the video. It's like, it's either that, or VaatiVidya, this creator that we've been with for a while, gets the benefit of the doubt, as our legal system and justice system, at least here in America, would require, of your innocence until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And the reasonable doubt here is, it is entirely possible, as Vaati said in his dissent, which is another big topic that I'd like to get onto. Vaati's dissent is where I'm pulling a lot of this stuff from, straight from Vaati's fingers. And yeah, so Vaati says himself that this is a excuse me. Vaati says himself that this is a complete coincidence. And not only that it's a coincidence, but that it's very, very clearly, likely to be a coincidence. Specifically, he states the reasons for why he picked, the same armor type and the same, and the choreography and the location for the fencing sequence. And he just says, this looks like a fencer's gear. And apparently both Aegon and VaatiVidya came to the same conclusion that this looks like a guy that would fence. And then he went to the place that he PvPs often, which is entirely normal. And the Pursuer's platform in the Forest of Fallen Giants is a highly dense area for PvP, and it's incredibly likely that people go there. It's clear that people go there for summon signs and for PvP and all that kind of stuff. And you have to take this and look at it and look at what the video says. I'll leave the links to the video, the Reddit discussion, and also Vaati's dissent below, and also to my original video, which again, unfortunately, was not of the best quality. I'm sorry, everything's not centered. Yeah. So let's let's take a look. So we have this, right? We have this whole thing going, and this is the brunt of the video. And the real bones I'd like to pick with the video is that it starts off in a mature, intelligent kind of way, maybe asking important questions onto where inspiration comes from the Souls community and where Vaati got his stuff, but then it derails into this ad hominem attack on Vaati's character. It goes to assume that since VaatiVidya was didn't talk as much in a podcast, that he doesn't know what he's talking about, or that he doesn't understand the Souls community, or that there's all of these allegations that VaatiVidya somehow stands outside of the Souls community and doesn't like to be a part of the community, and he doesn't like the other Souls creators, and this is all based on very loose, fallacious nothing, basically. Because if you hear Vaati and you listen to Vaati, you look at Vaati's interviews of him and such, he's the humblest guy that you'll ever see. We built him up in this community to be, like a master of lore and a lore god and all that kind of stuff. But you'll never catch him saying that. Go to any one of his videos, you'll never say, VaatiVidya, lore master, here coming at you trying to teach you about the Force of Fallen Giants, you filthy casuals. Like, he doesn't talk like that. He's a very, color it how you want, but the way he appears, at least to public, is he's a very, very humble guy. And he's very passionate about Souls. I think that's pretty obvious, too. He's very passionate about the community. He's passionate about what he does, and he loves what he does, and he started out just like one of us. And his channel has gotten so popular because he does what he does well. And he does it by himself, and he does it with his own inspiration and creativity, crafting these tales. So that's the first point that I'd like to get onto. You got those similarities with the Dark Souls video, and also a highly and highly unnecessary attack on Vaati's character and like Vaati's, the way that he cited Deaden in his Dark Souls in a Minute video for using his images. That's what's on very shaky ground here. And then the next section that I want to get onto is the second part of the accusation. So keep in mind, throughout all of Vaati's videos, the only accusations that are even being discussed here are, where he used an image from a user named Deaden and did not cite him, but then properly cited him, apologized, and this happened years and years back at the start of his channel back in 2012, before he was making Patreon money and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got the Dark Souls 2 video, which has 2 10, 20-second things that, whether or not you'd like to admit it, could easily have been coincidence. And Vaati states it as such, that this is just the way this works. And also, the dialogue, that's what really gets me, because the video says that, like, man, he used the same dialogue in that situation. And it's like, of course he used the same dialogue in that situation. Lucatiel has very limited dialogue, especially because it's Dark Souls 2. And that situation where she's confronting her brother, only very specific lines of dialogue work in that context. I'm sorry. And all of this stuff like boils down to when you're writing and when you're into that thing, and all of this content gets cut down further and further to, like, what all the NPCs can say, and then what can only Lucatiel say, and then what can only Lucatiel say in this specific instance, and what logically follows from these Lucatiel quotes. Like, how would you place them in order? And all of that really boils down to the fact that both Aegon and VaatiVidya had very small, limited, and the exact same tools to work with. And they ended up with the same conclusion. Again, not even verbatim. There's a quote. There's one of Lucatiel's quotes that's out of order in VaatiVidya's video. And you want to use that to hang the man. Unfortunately, that would not stand up anywhere that I know anybody that's taking this seriously. And you notice that I'm getting a little bit worked up about this, and I've had a lot of time to think about this subject, and it's just, there's a couple of reasons why this is a bad thing. This is not only people overreacting to an issue, but this is people accusing, somebody of a very serious crime, which is plagiarism. Plagiarism is very serious to content creators. I create content myself here on my MechaWill channel. I'm also, an actor, an artist. I like to write. I like to play guitar and music and all this kind of stuff, and I would be, I would be very morose if somebody ripped off my work, without acknowledging me and that kind of stuff. Plagiarism is a very serious deal. It can get you kicked out of universities. And we're not even taking the minute to stop and think about whether or not these accusations hold ground. Especially the night of, people were grabbing their pitchforks. Vaati stated that he's received hate mail and death threats. Not acceptable. Not acceptable here. And that's why I'm a little bit worked up, because not only is it gonna, hurt, VaatiVidya as a person and all that kind of stuff. If you don't empathize with people like that personally, that's fine. But it's also going to fracture the community, in the sense that not only is it fracturing the community right now between people that want to trust and support Vaati and want to trust and support Souls creators and give him the benefit of the doubt and not jump on the hate bandwagon, but the ones that don't. And also, I see smattered in that bunch a bunch of people that disliked Vaati beforehand, but now feel like they have a legitimate reason to actually jump onto the hate mail. Like, there's people I've seen that just did not like Vaati and always ragged on him, but for most of the time they would get they would be obscure because most people liked Vaati and most people stuck up for Vaati in those situations. But now that there's like a legitimate reason to hate him or whatever, you got a ton of these people, these kind of closeted Vaati haters coming out, and it's kind of adding to this Max Vaati exodus that's happening right now. And people have the right to do what they want to do. People can leave and to subscribe to who they'd like to and all that kinds of things. But the hate mail, the death threats, the community getting very hateful towards this creator, calling him despicable and disparaging Vaati's character and all these kinds of things. It's just not really acceptable, especially when, if you look at it with a clear, concise head, there's nothing in here that would stand up in a court of law, or would stand up to a peer-to-peer review, or would stand up to anything. So let's get on to the second half of, maybe not the second half. I know this video's gone on for a long time, but the second part. The second part is the last conclusion or the last allegation of plagiarism. I'm not talking about the stuff like, because he was on a podcast and he didn't talk that well, and Vaati says to himself, I'm an introverted guy. That was my very first podcast. I had never done this before, and I'm not good around people, and that's why you didn't. And that's why you didn't catch me, saying all these things and talking the way that I should have, and that is bullshit. That kind of stuff is not. You don't want to even try to debate that kind of stuff, because that's very fallacious. But the real last thing that was mentioned in the video is there was a 90-page essay that was written called "Seeking the Pale Blood Hunter" or "The Pale Blood Hunt" or something like that. That apparently this was what Vaati had ripped off himself, and in his Bloodborne lore video. And the only support for this is two things. One, that they both used the man that wrote the dissertation or the essay, and VaatiVidya both started their subsequent artistry works with the same H.P. Lovecraft quote. And Vaati explained, if you go to brainyquotes.com and you type in Lovecraft, that's the first quote that comes up. So again, I think that's very easy to dismiss. And not only that, you can't copyright a quote. So whether or not they use the same quote doesn't matter. Whether or not Vaati read the quote from the actual article, that from the essay from Beyond the Pale Blood Hunter, or Seeking the Pale Blood Hunt. I apologize for being a little bit unprofessional and not remembering the name at that point, but imagine you've got this but excuse me, my train of thought has derailed at this point. We got to get it back going at 88 miles an hour. So you have this Pale Blood Hunt, and you have Vaati, and they both use the same H.P. Lovecraft quote. Even if Vaati had taken the quote directly from the thing, it would not be plagiarism. That quote is free domain. Even if Vaati thought to himself, you know what, I think that's a really good quote, whether or not he found it like he said he found it, which, of course, you should believe unless there's a reason not to believe it. The quote is something, basically what I'm trying to get at with this is the quote is not something to be even discussing right now, because H.P. Lovecraft quotes are free domain. Doesn't matter where he got it from, doesn't matter where he got the inspiration from, doesn't matter if he just looked it up on brainyquotes.com. He can put whatever the fuck he wants in his videos. I could start this video with that H.P. Lovecraft quote, and that would not mean that I plagiarized this DMC Redgrave, which is, just remember, is the user that wrote the Pale Blood Hunt essay, and it would not be plagiarizing him. But we're gonna move on now that I've subsequently demolished the other lines of reasoning for people to stand on. The ad hominem and the coincidences in the Dark Souls 2 video. The last thing that really people is the only legs that they've got to stand on at this point is there is a college thesis checker. College plagiarism checker online proxy plagiarism checker that was put into that because it wasn't like the full software or something like that. They could only put in 150 words at a time, and so they took very specific parts of Vaati's transcript and put it into a checker, and it came up with 2 sentences. Mind you, this is on Vaati's 30-minute video with a giant-ass transcript and a 90-page thesis. It came up with 2 sentences that had respectively 98% and 96% compatibility in the fact that they used 98% and 96% chance that they were plagiarized, that these 2 lines were plagiarized. And that's really the only thing people have right now. They're like, ooh, high numbers. Vaati plagiarized for sure. Grab your pitchforks, and there's a discount on sale today for torches, so let's go grab some. Let's burn the barn down. There's a couple of reasons why a lot of people, not just myself, had dissented, but for a while, it was only a few people that were like, wait a second, what is this software doing? How many words were put in at a time? Why were these 2 sections cherry-picked, specifically? And what does this mean? And what do plagiarism softwares check for? And here's exactly what it is. And many people have stated it much more eloquently and elaborately than I have, but plagiarism checkers check for distinct words and phrases that are compatible with both of what's being checked against for specific ideas and context and kind of the way that sentences are put together, and how many the thing said that secrets, the word secrets popped up a lot in both of the essays. Well, you got to be out of your fucking mind. It's about a secretive game. And you know what I'm saying? Like, VaatiVidya and his transcript had the word secrets in it a lot, and so did the 90-page essay. That's something. It's not something. It's something that I want to laugh at. But these allegations, they're very real and very serious to people. So I'm trying to take this best I can. But that. And then what you have to really realize about this plagiarism detector, and the fact that 2 lines out of a 30-minute video and a 90-page essay, I'm accentuating this because the cherry picking is real at this point. None of the other things came up and matched, or none of the other things were checked. I don't even know exactly what was going on, but those are the only 2 that came up. And what you have to realize is that they're both using the same. The Kotaku article actually phrased it rather eloquently, and 2 Reddit users that I like to quote a lot when I'm talking to people about this phrased it very eloquently, and I can't exactly recall verbatim what words they used, but basically what you've got is 2 people that are writing a story, that are writing lore on Bloodborne, which was the most straightforward of all lore of all of the games, of all of the Souls games. It was barely ambiguous at all, and they're working from the very same source material, with the same item descriptions, the same phrasings, the same way that the game speaks to them. The game says things in very specific ways and phrases things in very specific ways, and uses the same kinds of dialogue, and uses the same kinds of dialect, and uses the same kinds of communication with the people that are doing this, and the research on the wikis is the same, and the research on all this kinds of stuff, it's all coming from the exact same source. And to have a guy, I said myself, to be as part of a community that says things in certain ways, and that's analyzing things in the exact same way to get the exact same result, you're gonna find sentences that are very like each other. So the example I used was, you're hanging up with like a group of stoners or a group of people that say dude a lot. This is the dude nation. It's all the dudes. It's dude time. All right. And so you're sitting with a bunch of people that say dudes, and you say to these people, individually, tell me the story of Mario. What's the percentage chance, in one sentence or whatever, and what's the percentage chance that any one of these people, irregardless of the others, are going to say, a dude goes to a castle to save a princess, or something like that. A dude goes to a dude fights through a castle to save a princess. A dude does these kinds of things. These statements, check those in together, throw them in the plagiarism checker. They match up right there, 98%, 96%. But it's something that you would expect from a community that's following the same source, and not only following the exact same source material, but also doing it in the same way to get the same results, to get the same kind of lore out of it that's already strictly expressed. And these ideas, these are not original ideas from DMC Redgrave, and they're not original ideas from VaatiVidya. They're original ideas from Software that is in their video game. And I just really want to break down that plagiarism detector, because that's the last thing that people can say, is that you've got all these plagiarism checks that came up with 2 sentences that had these things, and it's like, you got to be kidding me, When you really look at it, I think something that was, very good for for my case was one of these Reddit users that I like to quote a lot. He just made up, a 1-sentence. On a thesis of summing up what Bloodborne was, and he ran it through that plagiarism checker just on the spot. He just made up a random sentence that was like, the hunter seeks the pale blood to transcend the night or something like that, and threw it into the plagiarism detector, and boom, match found. You plagiarized. So I think people really need to take that in context and kind of really look at it, and people aren't really clearly doing that. They're just seeing, 98%. They're seeing these high numbers, and then also these attacks, and then you've got these. I'm trying to wrap up the issue and trying to really get down to why people are jumping onto this. And you've got these people that are longtime Vaati haters, not a huge part of the community. You got these people that aren't really looking deeply enough. They're just taking the surface facts. You got the mob mentality that's also backing it up, which means basically, since a bunch of people are already angry, a lot of people are going to join in on the anger, and a lot of people are not really going to question it, and they're just kind of going to follow the hive mind. And then you've got a lot of people that are either mistaken on what's going on, or are, or the proof is sufficient enough for them. That there's no such thing as coincidence, that these things, these 2 10-second things, and the fact that these 2 sentences came up out of Vaati's entire career, by the way, this means that there is no okay, that means that Vaati definitively plagiarized. It's just you got to look at it clearly. And the way I'm really judging this is, not only are people judging it like you're guilty until you're proven innocent, which is just wrong, but they're not giving him the benefit of the doubt either, which is something that the law provides. Innocent until proven guilty means until there's substantial proof beyond a reasonable doubt that cannot be, explained away with a different explanation, then the benefit is in the favor of the man that is being tried, of the person that is accused. And this is a safeguard that's there meant for, wrong accusations such as what I believe is this. And I'm a lot more definitive on my stance at this point than I was with my video. I stand clearly with VaatiVidya. He is not a plagiarist. Not only that, he does so much hard work for this community. It's almost despicable to see people attacking him. And I understand why that there was this scathing video that put out on him. And a lot of people had these suspicions that are like, oh, he never gets his own content. He never does this kinds of stuff, The Souls community is a community of people that share ideas and share thoughts and stuff like that. And Vaati's channel is in tandem with this. It's a channel that takes these ideas and ideas of his own and scripts of his own and narration of his own, words of his own, thoughts of his own, all this kinds of stuff. And he puts them all together into a video to make a lore experience, to make a story, to make all these kinds of stuff. And not only that, it brings something to the community, because you have these lore videos, but then you also have wonderful stuff that like soul songs And the stuff that he did for the community when Dark Souls 2 came out, like the Q&As and the guides for different Souls games and stuff like that. Vaati does a lot for this community. And, you know, to hit him with this, like, this is, plagiarism is serious. And if there's an accusation out there, you better be damn sure that this is clearly what's going on. And you better have some proof. And what I'm ashamed to see from most people out there and from this video that Aegon put out, again, I don't think Aegon is malicious in his intent. I think that Aegon is misinformed or found something that looked really similar to his work, and he's just like, you know, this has got to be plagiarism. He looked up a couple message board threads where people were like, you know, Vaati's a plagiarist, and suddenly to him, you know, now Vaati's a plagiarist, and he made this video that spent a long time on, and I appreciate him bringing the idea to the community and so that we can look at it, but I'm really ashamed of what the community is doing with it. I'm really ashamed of the way that the evidence was portrayed in the video, you know, in the ad hominem attacks on Vaati's character, assuming that he's not part of the Souls community, that he doesn't like the community. Vaati loves the community. Again, I'm speaking on Vaati's behalf as best as I can from what I know of the guy. Never met him myself personally, but, you know, I've watched interviews of him. I've watched his content. From what I've seen and heard from him, he's very humble. He loves his Souls, and he's worked hard for this community, basically with the sweat of his own back. And not only are people attacking him at this point, I'm seeing hateful comments in his YouTube section that I'm hoping people remove. And I'm seeing, you know, he said himself that he's getting hate mail and all these kinds of things. Believe that if you want to or not. Like, I know that's something people on the internet like to do, that say, oh, you're just saying you're getting hate mail and all this kinds of stuff to get sympathy for yourself, and you gotta shut up. You're not getting any of this shit. Well, the fact that you're talking so disparagingly towards him, what makes you think that somebody else wouldn't do that and type it in a little personal message? Look at all of Vaati's content. Look at how many hundreds of videos he's put out. He puts out basically a video a week, quality content weekly. That's his slogan on his banner. And none of these videos are in contention. But you want to say that it's not only plausible, but also entirely accurate that he decided for one video that creativity flew out of his mind because he's never done a fencing sequence before, which he has, and he's never done a fight sequence before and done a dialogue mashup before. He's done all these things before, by the way. But let's live in this fantastical world. And not only did he decide to plagiarize at that point for two videos, one for a Bloodborne video and one for a Dark Souls 2 video, but only for 1 to 2 sentences out of a 30-minute video with a massive transcript, and only for 2 10 to 20 second intervals of a 15-minute long video of stuff that he could do on his own. He can do this entirely on his own. You know, plagiarism is for the lazy. The kinds of people that plagiarize are the people that don't want to do the work for themselves to do this kinds of thing. So normally lazy plagiarists are people that plagiarize a lot. And take a look at Vaati, look at his channel, and you tell me that he's lazy. You tell me that he doesn't put the work into his videos and that he hasn't subsequently shown all this creativity and done all this stuff before with plenty of other videos. You know, show me that evidence. And then I've stated my case as much as I really think I need to. It's kind of a little bit ridiculous, a little bit. I'm a little bit ashamed of some of the aspects of the community that they're so quick to jump on this bandwagon of hate. And you know, I respect all opinions, and I know this is an ongoing investigation, and it should be ongoing investigation, not definitive, not where people are already saying he's a hack. You know, step back for a clear democratic, you know, judicial decision. People cannot jump to conclusions. Not only that, the innocent get the benefit of the doubt. And beyond that, you have to have substantial proof to make substantial claims like somebody is a plagiarist like that. That is harmful to a reputation. It's harmful to the Souls community and other creators. Imagine, you know, where this goes. Suddenly, we take this as verbatim that means you plagiarized if you have two sequences that look similar. And suddenly, Sunlight Blade has Dave Control Live has a video that has a similar sequence that, you know, some other unknown Souls tuber does. And suddenly, we burn down Dave Control Live's house. Like, imagine how the dominoes are going to fall if we stand and let this happen. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to bring my controversial opinion to part the Red Sea as Moses. I don't think that I'm that important, but I do think that I'm standing relatively, not in a good spot with, particularly the Reddit community and the YouTube community. But I'm still doing this because I know it's what's right. That we need to take a step back and we need to be clear on this. And if there's more evidence, if Vaati comes forward and he admits it, because it would not hurt his bottom line to admit it. The number one thing for people to know is that if Vaati came out and apologized right now and said he admitted to all of these things, not only would it not hurt his bottom line, but it'd be better for him as a channel. So one of the biggest influences in what you're thinking about as to whether or not he's guilty should be the fact that he's vehemently denying it. He's fighting back against all of these claims, all of them. He's not saying that he did. He's saying this is my own work and I did this myself and I did not plagiarize you guys. And it's hurting him because of that, but he's still sticking with it. If he were to come out and apologize, it would be good for him. He'd probably get some more subs back, But anyway, that's something to also think about. But I think that I've gone on for as long as I can. And at this point, I hope this video makes its rounds. Please share, like, and subscribe. My name is MechaWill. And thank you for coming around here. I appreciate it. So I'll see you guys next time.